So
right.
now that recording is in progress, I guess we're starting our special meeting of the Flathead Reservation Water Management Board. So George, opening prayer, please.
Okay. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you for this day. Thanks for having to remind me to be here. Be with all of us today. Help us to make all wise, careful decisions on what we're meeting on. Protect us all. Guide us through our lives. And help us all to get along and enjoy each other's company. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hey, Lem's George. Okay, attendance?
Clayton Matt,
Here.
Roger Noble,
Here.
George McLeod,
Here.
Ken Pitt,
Here.
and Georgia Smees and Shane Hendrickson are both absent.
All right, thank you. With a quorum, like I said, I do not have the agenda open in front of me, so I don't know if you put approval of any previous minutes, but I guess I would suggest that we just not worry about approving any previous minutes at this point. So what do we have next on the agenda?
Potential conflicts of interest.
Potential conflicts of interest. Okay, Roger.
None.
Ken.
None.
George.
None.
And none here. So,
Okay.
all right, what do we got next?
Adopt the agenda.
Okay. I'll have to trust you, and you tell me if you're ready to adopt the agenda. I'll take a motion when you're ready. I do not have it open.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We adopt the agenda as provided.
Motion by Roger.
Second.
Second by Ken. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, next.
Public comment.
Any public comment? Is there any public online?
There is one person. If anyone online from the public has a comment, please raise your hand and I will allow you to speak. Seeing no public comment.
Okay, no public comment at this time, so we'll revisit that at the end of the meeting, I'm sure. So, okay, what's next?
All right, the next thing is OE employee health insurance plan selection, and I guess I might as well take this.
All right, Roger, you got it. And I did look over some of the material that was recently sent in the summaries. I've got a couple notes here, but it'd be good to hear about it.
Yeah. So this has kind of been an arduous task. We also have Judy Sharp is with us today. And
Welcome, Judy.
Thank you.
Judy's been very instrumental in assisting us navigate through this process. So can't express enough appreciation for her assistance. So we originally, our plan came up for renewal and we went down the road and Judy came up with quotes for, just a little background, for the people that had been previously enrolled. We had 4, I think, enrollees previously. And Judy, unbeknownst to her, didn't realize that James Frakes had resigned. So initially, when she reran the numbers, we had 2 options for health insurance carriers. One was Blue Cross Blue Shield. The other was Pacific Source. And her initial run showed that Pacific Source was going to have, as far as premiums go, was going to be not substantially, but significantly less amount, and that we might want to consider switching carriers. And Judy, feel free to jump in if you think I'm out to lunch on anything. So
Nope, you're doing good so far.
all right. So
question. So slightly less for the exact same kind of coverage.
yeah. So for instance, when the initial thing was the premium for a Blue Cross Blue Shield was $7.98, and and Pacific Source for this is a traditional plan. I believe that's what Ethan was enrolled in, and Pacific Source was $7.57, so about a $30 savings per month if we switched. Well, then I guess Judy, like I said, Judy hadn't, and also I guess this may be a good place to segue, and I guess those were the numbers that I was originally quoting. And that was the gold plan, which is the top of the line almost. You know, there's the platinum plan, but nobody offers a platinum plan. So then we had further discussions on traditional and then also the high deductible health plan. And with the high deductible health plan, that person can take the money that's left over from we give everybody an $850, I'll say stipend for lack of a better term, and they can take that balance and put it into an HSA, a health savings account, which is what James was doing.
And
So to
Ethan
be
and Christy.
so to be clear, the balance is what? So the
and
850 stipend, and then there's a balance based on what?
Eight, and Christy also, as Judy mentioned.
Yeah.
So then there's a small fee for dental and vision also. So for instance, and maybe Judy, if Ethan, you can put up that. So we also explored this HRA, which is a health reimbursement arrangement.
Hey,
And
Roger,
yes,
can I just hit pause just for my own clarity? So the $850 stipend, and you said the remainder would go into something. Could we remainder based on what? $850 stipend does what?
Okay.
Where does the remainder come from?
So let's have Ethan open up that one document that I told you to have ready. So just to digress a minute, Ethan, I'll do some screen sharing here shortly, but the HRA was another option, and it was kind of tailored for, that's not what I need. The other one.
I can probably quickly answer that question. Basically, there's, for an employee only rate for the health insurance, the dental insurance, and the vision insurance. And there was about, I think, $120 over and above that. So if you took the $850 minus the employee rate, it left, there you go, $131 that could be contributed to a health savings account for the employee.
Okay.
And just to digress, so we had Rhonda originally prepare this, and then Judy reviewed it and added some information in red. So, for example, like Judy said, if you're in the high deductible plan, then you can roll that money into an HSA and use it for anything medically related. In an HSA is a health savings account. If you're in the traditional plan and you don't use it, then it goes back to the employer. But in this case, Ethan was enrolled with his family, so he was burning through the $850 with no problem. So that's kind of why we have the two plans. One was for somebody like James, who was single at the time and only needed to insure himself, and whereas Ethan has a family, and so then this fit his needs. So does that make sense so far?
Yes, that helps.
Okay. So then, we went down this road of the HRA, and maybe I'll let Judy explain what an HRA is, because I'm still a little confused on it.
I could do that. So just very quickly, health reimbursement account is basically, we were looking at it to see if it would be reasonable and prudent to add it for those that are on the traditional plan, because they cannot have an HSA account if they're on the traditional plan. Anytime you're on a plan that has first dollar benefits, then you're not qualified for health savings account. So we were looking to see if we could do something like contribute to an HSA on the traditional plan, which the only way would be to do an HRA. But and then you have to submit, you have to pay for some expenses and then submit them for reimbursement, basically. And it's an employer funded account. The employer can set up limits on it. So they could either say, yeah, we'll pay that difference of, you could see in there is $128. We could put that in every month for anybody that's on the traditional plan, since they're not getting contribution to the HSA. But then they can also determine what you're going to reimburse. But what Roger and I just finally got some rates back, admin fees back from Pacific Source, and their minimum monthly admin fee is $85. So to set this up, I mean, you almost have, it's really geared towards large group, not small group. You'd have to have at least 16 employees to even break even for that $85 a month, because their monthly fee is $525 per employee, but a minimum of $85. So it's really not, I can't advise you to do that. It's just not financially, it's not
True.
a gain for you guys to do that.
Yeah. The other thing is, I took those numbers and used the minimum number and stretched it out on an annual basis, and it was going to be $1,500 just to set this thing up and administer it. And
Yeah.
so we didn't, my conclusion was that that's not a viable option. That's not a financially sound. I can't financially make that recommendation as being a steward of the budget. So, the HRA sounded great initially, but then once we finally got all the numbers, it kind of became apparent that this was not probably in our financial wheelhouse.
Yeah, and basically, like I said, it's really geared, HRAs are really geared for larger size groups. And my book of business is all small group, and I do not have one single group that has a HRA in play, because it's not feasible to do it for small groups for the admin fees.
Yeah. And I have forwarded this document to everybody. So if you want to dive into the details of it, feel free to read it. But both Rhonda and Judy did a great job of preparing this and getting down to the nuts and bolts of it. So that was, in addition to the HSA or the traditional and the high deductible plan, we thought about adding the HRA, but then it became apparent that that probably wasn't a financially sound decision.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, then we're back to looking at Blue Cross Blue Shield versus Pacific Source as the two carriers. Then Ethan advised Judy that James was no longer employed full-time, and so he wasn't part of our employee pool, and asked Judy to rerun the numbers on that. So I'll let Judy speak to how that shook out.
Yeah, so once I removed James from the quoting, it came out like $4 difference a month per employee between Blue Cross and Pacific Source. And for $4 a month savings to rewrite a group with a new carrier and do all new paperwork, my advice was it's not worth $4 a month savings to change carriers. So my recommendation was to stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And what I talked with Ethan about is if the census changes, because I know you guys are trying to recruit right now or interview new employees, if that census changes in the future and say you add on some younger people, that's going to have an impact on the rates. I can always rerun rates or quotes in the future once you've got new people in and settled in, and they're gonna be around long enough to make it worth the while, because we can rewrite any month during the year. It would change your renewal date from February to whatever month it is. Basically, when you renew with Blue Cross Blue Shield, it's a 1-year contract, but it's not a binding that you have to stay with them for 1 year. It's basically saying your rates won't change for 1 year. But if you chose, say in June, you have your new employees hired and I run new quotes for Pacific Source, then, and the rates are much lower per employee, then it might be worth considering rewriting at that time. Or we can wait until next renewal and rewrite at that time, depending on this, because the census in the group is what's going to determine the rates. You start looking at average age of the group and how many employees. When we went from 4 to 3 and then I also ran it for 2, then the savings wasn't there with Pacific Source like it was with the 4 people. So that's why I recommended just staying with Blue Cross at this point.
And with Blue Cross at this point, we're locked into those rates, so that was a plus also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
because the Blue Cross renewal was generated when James was still on the plan. And so that's why I ran the comparisons with James on the plan. So we were looking apples to apples, but so those rates are locked in. But then once I changed the census on the quoting, then Pacific Source was not the big savings that it originally was if James would have still been on the plan. But once the renewal is released from Blue Cross, those rates are locked in for 1 year.
So what would the rate be?
The renewal rate?
Yes.
Let me pull it here. So the renewal rate is on the traditional plan, the current rate is 677.72, and it's increasing to 747.75. On the high deductible health plan, it's going from 674.44 to 754.14. So about an $80 increase per employee.
Thank you.
Clarify, that's for individual coverage, not
Yeah.
family.
Correct. Yeah, per employee.
Yeah.
Single rate.
So, we've got sections 4, which is discussion of the health reimbursement account, and section 5, which is contribution to the OE employee health plan. So those things are coming, but right now we're strictly on looking at Blue Cross Blue Shield as our insurance provider. So the decision is, based on $4 difference. And if we were to convert over to Pacific Source, everybody would have to fill out new applications. Yeah. In addition to that, we're button up against the renewal time frame, which is February 1st. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
So based on all of that, it seemed obvious that we should just stick with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
I think I understand what's happening, and I don't have any other questions. I think at this point we just need to, sounds like we need to make a final decision and move on.
Yep.
Any other questions? Haley, have you had a chance to peek at all this, and do you have any questions or pointers for us?
No, I took a look at what Roger sent over earlier today, and I mean, this information is helpful, so I don't have any further questions.
So that, Clayton, takes us down to the public comment if needed, and then we can make a motion for selecting a carrier.
Let me just double check with the rest of the board members. Ken, anything?
No.
George, anything?
No.
Okay, how about staff? Anything you want to ask of us?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I have a couple of questions. Judy, if like in 2 months, we have some different employees, can we rerun this and do a switch to Pacific Source at that time?
Yes, you can switch, we can make a change. I call it rewrite to a different carrier the first of any month. So it could be in May, it can be in July, it could be in September. And that would become your new renewal date. But other than that, there's no penalties for canceling Blue Cross mid-year. There's no disadvantage to rewriting mid-year. So if the
Thank you.
census changes and it's going to save you a lot of premium dollars, then I would definitely say let's look at rewriting mid-year and save the dollars.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to get that extra piece of clarity before the board makes a decision, so that, if there was a way not to make a decision that removed that option to reconfigure things when we got some new staffing, that would be great.
Yeah, no, I picked that up on what she said earlier. That's good clarification. So with that, I think we're ready to make a motion. So is there any public that wishes to comment on this before we take any action?
If anyone online has a comment, please raise your hand and I will allow you to speak. Saying no public comment.
Okay, for the record, no public comment. So unless there are any other final questions, I'll be ready to take a motion to. So so Judy, what should this motion be?
I would say just whether you want to continue with Blue Cross Blue Shield at this point.
As is. Okay, so
Mhm.
member of the board will take a motion to continue with Blue Cross Blue Shield if that's what you want.
I can do it. Mr. Chairman, I move that the board continue with Blue Cross Blue Shield as it is.
Motion by Ken,
I'll second it.
second by George. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. We are approved. Anything else on the agenda?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the OE Employee Health Reimbursement Account. We had discussed this previously. I don't, there is an action item on here, but I don't see, and I'd have to defer to Haley. Do we even need to make, if we're not going to go there, do we even need to make a motion on this?
No, that's not necessary. If it were something already in place, then yes, but this is just an additional benefit.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so given that, yeah, it was just not financially viable to go down that road. So the next item on the agenda is number 5, FRWMB employer contributions to OE employee health plans. Okay, so I brought this up too in our meeting on January 15 to the staff. I had done some research. because as Judy mentioned, our premiums are going up. And they want to up across the board for everybody that has a healthcare policy. So the one company that, and I'm just going to give you a range here of things. The one company that I have modeled this plan after that has 120 employees, they increased their employee contribution similar to ours from $850 to $900. So they're giving the employees an additional $50. Georgia followed up with the SK College, and she found out that the SK College currently contributes $750 as similar situation as we do, but they did not allot any increase this year. And then I followed up with the state, and the state is kind of similar to us in a way in that they cover 100% of the employees' healthcare costs. And with our policy, the $850 already covers the full premium for that for an individual employee. And with the high deductible plan, then the employees are allowed to take that balance and put it into an HSA. And so that HSA runs with them for life too. It doesn't terminate. But anyway, the state, so I asked Payla to do this. She then assigned it to Blair. Blair checked it, looked into it, and the state increased theirs $30. So we have everything from $0 to $50 increase is what I found out. So I know with other companies, that other company too, I don't know how, I guess I don't know how it shook out, but I think as Judy mentioned, the general increase was about $80 per employee. Is that correct, Judy?
Yes.
So I think at a minimum, we should consider an additional $50 contribution, raising the $850 stipend to $900. And I would entertain any other ideas on this. But then I guess I'm just trying to be competitive with what's out there in the private market, because we're a small business, and we have to find insurance through small business, the small business field. We're not associated with the Montana Association of Cities and Counties. We're not big enough, we're not riding the coattails of the state or the tribe's health insurance policies. We don't have 10,000 employees, where they can get substantially better premiums. So everything that I've researched says we're competitive. We're more than competitive with what's out there on the market. And Judy can probably speak to that better than I can.
Yeah, my book of business is all small group. Most of my groups are under 10 employees. And what I was telling everybody last week when we met is the requirement by the insurance carrier is that the employer pays 50% of the employee-only rate. So you guys are very generous, but I do understand what you're trying to compete against too for attracting and retaining your employees. So, and I mean, I certainly have groups that pay 100% of employee rates, but the requirement is 50% of the employee rate. So anything you're doing over and above that in the small group arena of private business is generous, to put it frankly.
And I guess just to carry that a step further, Ethan and I visited before the meeting, and he had done some research, and this is per employee. I want to stress, we're focused on the employee, and maybe we need to think about families more in the future. But right now, if we're just focused on employee, the national average, for instance, is in the private sector, they cover 80% of the health premium for an employee, and in the government sector, it's 86%. And we're covering 100% plus. So
Mhm.
we're very competitive out there.
Okay. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Judy. I see what makes sense to me. Let's hear from the other board members, comments and thoughts. Ken,
Not anything.
are you in favor of an increase, and are you in favor of the recommendation that Roger made?
In favor of the increase, but it does trouble me that this is gonna increase the fee to the employees by $30. As I understand, maybe I don't understand it correctly.
Do you
Well,
do you have another recommendation for an increase?
No, I just wanted to hear how Roger's or maybe Judy's take on that issue.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's gonna be $30. If you do a $50 increase, it's gonna be about a $30 increase in cost to the employee. If they're on the high deductible health plan, really what that means, instead of getting $130 put into their HSA, they're gonna get $100 a month put into their HSA.
well, and to carry that a little further, I think you said that then the average now is 754. So if they're in the high deductible plan, they still have $150 that's going to go into the HSA. We're still paying 100% of the premium, and we're still making a contribution to the HSA.
Okay.
But, it's
Yeah,
up to you guys.
It's still gonna cover the employee-only health insurance, the dental insurance, and the vision insurance, and still have money left over to put into a health savings account.
Thank you.
All right, George.
Yes, I'm in favor with what Roger and Judy have put together.
Okay. And who am I missing? Am I missing anybody?
I'm in favor too.
Okay. I guess I'm missing myself. I'm in favor of your recommendation, Roger. Haley, any final thoughts on it?
Nope, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, is that Ethan?
Hi, it's Ethan, your water engineer. I had just a couple of thoughts. Just to be clear, like under a family plan, for me on an annual basis, the Blue Cross Blue Shield's rate increases equates to about $3,000 a year increase beyond where I was at before. So it's kind of significant for our family. And we were already paying a pretty decent amount annually at $14,889 a year. This increases to $17,853 of the employee responsibility for health insurance. And I just wanted you to know that if we get to adding folks who have family, that they're going to notice the increase that Blue Cross Blue Shields has thrust on us a little bit more. I also do want to really commend the board for what they've done with individual insurance, and the 100% payment of the individual with the potential overage for an HSA is definitely a great coverage and a great benefit for the board to offer. The other thing I have that I could that may or may not make a difference is I did because we are simultaneously doing a bunch of budget information and budget updates. I have spent quite a bit of time last night and this morning integrating staffing costs into our budget to update those numbers. And historically, there has been a set aside of 35% for indirect expenses for salaried employees, which would include the taxes and FICA, would include the retirement match of 6%, and then it would also include the health insurance. And so for what it's worth, you don't get it if the board was to go as high as like $1,100 a month for health insurance contributions, they'd still only be at about 34% for indirect. Whereas if if it was 1,000 a month, that would be at about a 32% of indirect, and if it was 900 per month, that would be at a 31% indirect. And I don't know if that helps much, but I just wanted to offer those items for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. I think as Roger said, at this point, we need to try to move this forward and then keep family coverage issues in mind. And I think once we get more staffed and we get down the road here, we can raise that again and have those discussions. At least that's my thought on it. So any other thoughts from any other board members on it this time?
No.
I guess I share your sentiment, Clayton, but I think the next step that I want to see, well, we still need our budget for fiscal year 2025, and we had a meeting on that yesterday. But I think we need to go back and revisit the fringe benefits. And, things, I don't think we're anywhere near calculating what real fringe benefits are at this time. So I think that's going to be a step in, and then one of the next tasks we take on. And we need to do that anyways, potentially, so we can share that information with people when we recruit them. But that's why I say I think I want to put this on hold till we have the budget, till we've reevaluated the benefit situation, and then we can go back and look at other contributions or more contributions to the healthcare plan.
Makes sense.
I might just make a comment here. I have some small groups where they do help pay some of the dependent coverage, but they don't pay 100% of the employee. So they might say, for instance, we'll pay 75% of the employee rate and we'll pay 30% or 40% or 50% of dependents rates. So if you're looking in the future at how to help mitigate some of those costs for those with families, I mean, you're going to you almost have to take it from Peter and give it to Paul by taking it from an employee rate to give it to the dependent coverage. Quite frankly, most groups do not pay anything for dependent coverage. It's up to the employee to pay for their own dependents or go to the marketplace if they qualify for tax credits.
Thanks, Judy, for that.
Okay, so any, I think, just head nods, we ready for action on this?
I had one comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, George.
With the tribe, any dependents, we pay for that. Tribe covers the individual, but if you want to include family, you end up paying for that.
What percentage? I don't remember.
I really don't know either. I know that I pay that cost so that my wife has the coverage. And it has helped a lot. It saved us a lot of money.
Okay. I think as we move forward, I think Roger's points are all well taken. And I think that, there'll come a time when we're ready to reconsider. But agreed. Thank you, George.
You're welcome.
All right, so any public out there wants to make a comment on this?
If any of the public online would like to make a comment, please raise your hand and I will allow you to speak. Saying no public comment.
Okay, no, for the record, no public comment on that. So if you're ready, the recommendation is to increase that contribution from 850 to 900. Take a motion if you're so inclined.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to increase the benefit from 850 to 900.
Motion by George,
I'll second.
second by Roger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, approved.
So Clayton, can I interject here for a minute?
Roger.
Thanks. So I guess Judy, we need an invoice from you for what our premiums are going to be, or do I have that? Or I want to make sure we get this thing taken care of and meet the deadline.
Yeah, so because we're staying with Blue Cross Blue Shield, we don't need to do anything for the renewal. It will automatically renew current plans with the enrollment as is. So only if somebody wants to make a change to enrollment, either drop the coverage or change their dependent coverage, I need an application from them. The invoice, I would assume for February has already generated because it's the 22nd. So if we make any changes for February, they would do an adjustment on the March invoice.
Okay. Rhonda, do you have that invoice?
Yes, and it's already been paid because of the
Okay.
due date. So any adjustments will be reflected in March, like Judy said.
Yeah,
All right, good. I just didn't want to have any lapse or pause or anything like that.
No.
I'm
Thanks,
very
Roger.
good. Very good.
Okay. Was that it for the agenda?
That's it.
All right, any final public comments?
If anyone online from the public would like to comment, please raise your hand and I will allow you to speak. Seeing no public comment.
Okay, anything else from board members?
No.
I'd just like to again thank Judy for all of her efforts in working with us to walk us through all of this.
you're welcome.
This maze. God, I
Thank you,
learned a lot.
Thank you, Judy, and thank you, Roger, for all your efforts on this as well. Much appreciated. So, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Ken,
I'll second.
second by George. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, I see hands waving out there. So, thank you all.
See you
Thanks.
next Wednesday.
Bye.